Thank you so much, John. That was very, very kind, very, very kind. All right, let's see if we can master the technology and and share a screen here. Let's see. All right, can people see that?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I was asked to talk today about voting in Fayette County, who we vote for, where we vote, when we vote, and you know, I'm also available if when we get to questions and answers, if people do have school system questions, I'm happy to do that. Let me say also, Dr. Patterson, Jonathan, if your audio comes back on and you're ready to go, we can, I can pause and we can fit you in really at any time. So I have to start here with RBG because that's today. I had the fortunate experience to meet her one day, and as part of a summer program in between first and second year of law school, a number of University of Richmond students spent the summer in Cambridge studying law, and we were out walking across that old esteemed institution one day, and just walking, coming the other way was this tiny little woman, and this starstruck group of students just literally ran across her, and she was so kind to us. And so in her memory, let me just say that, you know, I met her one time and she was very, very nice to us. And so may that be, you know, something that we can all aspire that people say about us, that I met her one time and she was nice. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about when we vote for who. So that's all about different kinds of offices and terms. We're going to talk a little bit about special elections because they're a little bit different. And we're going to talk about where you vote. And where you vote depends on what offices you're voting on. And so that's one of the many confusing things about voting in Georgia is for some elections you vote in one place, and for some elections sometimes you have to vote in another place. There's a lot of important voting things that we're not going to talk about. We're not going to talk about voter registration or voter purges. We're not going to talk about how you vote, whether it's absentee or with the new machines, and how you scan it in, and when early voting is, and all that kind of thing. We're not going to talk about counting votes and postal service and when ballots get rejected. Lots and lots of important voting related issues that you know, someone else can talk about some other day. So when we vote for a candidate, and in general, there's some things about candidates. Different offices have different requirements for whether or not you can be a candidate. For instance, to be a sheriff, you have to have certain law enforcement certifications. To be a judge, you have to have been a practicing lawyer for a certain amount of time. To be the president, you have to be, you know, a certain number of years old, et cetera, et cetera. In general, candidates have to live in the district that they are running in. There is, like any other rule in US politics, there's exceptions, right? Exceptions are US congressmen. If you are running for the House of Representatives, you do not have to live in the district you run in. You know, some sort of famous examples of that are John Ossoff and, you know, my congressman, David Scott, does not live in my district. In general, you have to live in a district to vote in that district. Again, there's an exception. If you have an at-large voting system like we used to have in Fayette County before 2014, or there are some races now that we have at-large voting systems for, right? The Public Service Commission, a lot of our city races, and we'll get to all of these specifically for each race as we go. And in general, we choose our candidates to be on the ballot in a partisan primary. That primary is generally in May, with qualification to be on that ballot in March. So as we go through these races, if we don't talk about something different, that in general assume that it's a partisan race with generally that primary is in May. When we talk about this, just a little review, federal system of government, right? We're going to talk about federal offices, we're going to talk about state offices, and we're going to talk about local offices. So we're going to start with the federal government. We think about how much all of us spend thinking about what the federal government does and how much power they have in our lives. When we elect people to run the federal government, each of us, right, only votes for 4 different people in the federal government system, right? The first, we vote for a president, and we know that. 4-year terms. In general, right, this is one of those exceptions. President, we usually choose those in a separate primary from our regular primary. That primary usually has a different date. Of course, in 2020, because of COVID and delays, it was actually on the same ballot this year for some of us. But in general, we have a different primary for president. So that's the one of the people we elect to the federal government. And then, you know, to be a candidate, you have to live, you know, all of us in Georgia vote for the same candidates. Same for US Senate. We vote for 2 US senators. You can see their 6-year terms. This year, 2020, we're electing one of those senators to a 6-year term. The other race is generally on a different cycle, a 2022 cycle, but there's a special election this year. We're going to get to that in a minute. And again, all of us in Georgia, all of us in Fayette County vote on the same candidates. As we move to US House, which we elect every 2 years, and again, this is one of those exceptions, but we start having to talk about different districts and different people in Fayette County voting for different races. And just to you know, remind everyone, when we start looking at maps, we're going to look at a map here of Georgia to identify. Oops, I did not want to do that. Now I have really done it. Okay. Remind everyone where Fayette County is. Anyway, Fayette County is right here. Interestingly, as an aside, you can look at all these red roads that go through Georgia, all the major roads. None of them go through Fayette County. It's one of the very interesting things about Fayette County and the Fayette County economy, for a different topic, but none of those roads go through here. So we're right here in the state of Georgia. Here's just a county map. Georgia has more counties per capita, I think, than any other state. Here's what Fayette County looks like just by itself. You can see these different shaded areas. These shaded areas are our cities within Fayette County. So this is Fayetteville over here. I don't know if you can see just how crazy those lines are, but we've got Fayetteville, Woolsey, Brooks, Peachtree City, and Tyrone are our 5 cities. So just a little review in general about Fayette County. So here's back to the the US House of Representatives, the one other person we vote for in the federal government. Here's a map of Georgia, our 14 congressional districts. Fayette County is right here. two different colors, two different districts. And here's Fayette County map of our congressional district. So some of us who live up in the top are in the 13th congressional district. Our current congressman is David Scott, a Democrat. You see the vast majority of Fayette County is in the 3rd congressional district, represented by Drew Ferguson. And you can go back, if we look, you can see the yellow is the 13th, the green is the 3rd, if you want to look at it back on the state map. Each of these colored areas in 2010, according to the census, had the same number of people living in them. So very different sizes, but they all have the same population. So we vote for, on the federal government, president, 2 senators, and 1 congressman. Now in Georgia, we'll get to the state level now, right? The main person we elect is the governor, 4-year terms. Next election will be in 2022. We also, at the same time and schedule, elect a whole host of other state offices all at the same time, and I've got them listed here on the slide: lieutenant governor, secretary of state, et cetera, et cetera. These are sometimes called state constitutional offices because each of these people are named specifically, each of these offices are named specifically in the Georgia state constitution. We also elect senators and House members on the state level. So in Georgia, state Senate terms are 2 years. So every 2 years, even years, we have an election. Here's a map on the Georgia level of all of the different state Senate districts. We can look at Fayette County again, is right here, 2 different colors. And let's zoom in on those districts. So some of us live in State Senate District 34. So my senator is Valencia C, and many of us live in State Senate District 16, represented by Marty Harbin. So State Senate, and we also have a State House. Every 2 years we elect a State House member. Here's all the different State House districts in Georgia. Fayette County is right here again. We have 5 different State House districts in Fayette County. Right, so along the northern edge, my state rep is District 64, Derek Jackson. If you live across the street from me, you're represented by Deborah Bazemore in District 63. So I actually live on the line up here. And then, you know, running across the southern end of the county, a small bit of the western part of the county is represented in District 71, Philip Singleton. A lot of Peachtree City is District 72, Josh Bonner. And then the eastern side is represented by Karen Mathiak in District 73. So one of the things you'll notice is, let me go back, right? If you ask anybody who is a House of Representative member where they represent, where they're from, or listen to them introduce themselves at a meeting, they're all from a lot of places, right? If you look at this map, none of the colors match up very well with county lines. And so people represent lots of unique different areas, and you can see in Fayette County how the overlap goes for the different districts moving out. But there, so we have five members. A lot of things in the Georgia State Legislature that involve your very specific location are decided by what is called your county delegation, which is all of the state house members from your area. So it is, that's one of the reasons why there are 5 House members and 3 of them are Republican seats, is because that state House delegation does make some decisions for our county. Also on the state level, we elect Public Service Commission members. These are the people who are in charge of regulating our public utilities. There are 5 different members, and they have 6-year terms. There are two of those seats are up this year. This is one of those areas where you don't have to live in a district to vote in that election. So we are here in Fayette County. We live in Public Service Commission District 5, but these are all elected by at-large voting. So everyone gets to vote for all 5 different members, even though we only live. So if you wanted to run in this race, you could only run in District 5, but to vote in this race, you get to vote for all of those 5 different members. And that's sort of this state level. Just to go back and review, governor and state constitutional offices, state house, state senate, and public service commission. Then moving down, we get to our local level. And so we elect county level officials. We elect a county commission. We have 5 county commissioners who are elected to 4-year terms. 3 of those seats are on the ballot this year. And we elect 5 school board members to 4-year terms, and 3 of those seats are up for election this year. County commission and school board share a map. And so we have 4 districts in Fayette County for commission and school board, and we have 1 at-large seat that everybody votes for. And you can see on the screen, you know, where those districts are and who is currently representing us on our county and school board. And again, 3 of the school board members and 3 of the commissioners are on the ballot this year. We also elect other countywide offices. We elect a sheriff, we elect a clerk of Superior Court, a tax commissioner, a coroner, a probate judge, every 4 years. And this is one of those years that we're electing all of those people. All of Fayette County, all of these are represent the whole county. So everyone votes on these offices. So also talked about, right, some of us live within a city. Some of us, we have 5 different cities in Fayette County. So Fayetteville, Peachtree City, Tyrone, Brooks, Woolsey. If you live in one of those cities, you also get to vote in your municipal elections. You get to vote for your mayors and your city councils. Differences, municipal elections are different. So they're nonpartisan. So no candidates have party affiliations listed for them, and there's no primary. There's just one election. In general, in the cities, it's at-large voting. So you have different posts or seats in city council, but everybody votes for everybody. And these elections have different times and different places. They happen in odd years rather than even years. So, and they also, you will vote in a different place. Because our voting districts in other elections don't correspond to city lines. If you're voting in a city election, you can only vote within that city. So usually in odd years, you are not going to your regular polling place. You have to go to your special municipal voting location. So Fayetteville has a mayor and 5 council members for 4-year terms, and I'm not going to read all these about which year which thing is, but Fayetteville, Peachtree City, Tyrone, and Brooks, Woolsey. Woolsey has 3 council members and the mayor. I know we're going through this pretty quickly. I will, after I get this proofread by somebody else, make this presentation available to everybody. So don't feel like you have to be furiously taking notes or, you know, or anything like that. So we talked about a lot of the offices. We had to talk about our judicial system as well, and our criminal justice system. Right, the people involved in that are elected as well. Right, we talked about the sheriff being elected from Fayette County every 4 years. We also elect the prosecutors, people who choose when and how to prosecute people who are arrested by the police. Prosecutors in Georgia, just like the other races, are partisan races with primaries. Right, we elect a district attorney and a solicitor general who are prosecutors. District attorneys serve 6-year terms. And we elect those people by our judicial circuit, which is yet another map. Right, Fayette County is right here. We are in the Griffin Judicial Circuit. So we elect people in conjunction with the people in our judicial circuit. In Georgia, we also elect judges. Judges are different in that they are nonpartisan. So like your mayors and city councils, there's no political party associated with a race. What's different about judges is we don't elect them in November like when we elect everybody else. We actually elect judges during our normal primary in May. So even though they're not partisan races, they're not primary races, they are elected on that ballot in May. The other different thing that's very confusing about judges here in Georgia, particularly if you're from somewhere else, the actual name of the office and how it is listed on the ballot, it is listed with the incumbent's name. So you're not voting for, you know, Supreme Court Justice seat number 1. You're voting for Supreme Court Justice, parentheses, and a person's name. So every race inherently is named for the person who's holding it. So that's very weird, and it's very hard to keep track of the different seats. So statewide, we elect Supreme Court justices and Court of Appeals judges, and then we also elect judges for our circuit court. We are now have 5 circuit court judges in that Griffin Judicial Circuit that we elect. In Fayette County, just within the county itself, we elect our state court judge and our magistrate court judges. Okay, so let's talk about special elections for a minute. So all of those elections I talked about happen on a regular schedule and happen in those years. So what happens if during that term, in between elections, there's a vacancy in office? Someone passes away, someone resigns, someone moves somewhere else. What happens if there's a vacancy? So in general, if there's a vacancy in the office, it depends on what office that is, what happens, right? Some vacancies are filled by governor appointment. Those are mostly judicial in the judicial system. Some vacancies are appointed because of strange arcane rules. For instance, the Fayette County School Board. If there's a vacancy on the school board, the remaining school board members will fill the vacancy there. But for the most part, if there's a vacancy, then there has to be a special election to fill that role. And the governor will, the Secretary of State will certify a date for that special election depending on when the vacancy occurs. And the election will be to just finish out the remainder of the existing term. So some of the differences are, right, in general, we know that we're supposed to pick a candidate through a primary. In a special election, there's no primary associated with it. So sometimes you hear the word jungle election, right? There's no primary. All the candidates from both parties are all together on one ballot. So instead of having a Democratic primary and a Republican primary first and getting down to two, right, all the candidates are all on the election together. And you'll see that when you get your ballot for Senate this year, because we are having a special election for the US Senate. Johnny Isakson resigned in the middle of the term, right? The governor did get to appoint a replacement to fill the office until the special election, but we are having a special election in November, and there's a host of Republican and Democratic candidates all on the ballot together. You remember in Georgia, you have to get 50% plus one vote. You have to get a majority. So if not, then the top two candidates will go to a runoff. We are also this fall having a special election to fill a seat on the Tyrone Town Council. But remember, that is a town seat. And we know that our municipal elections, you sometimes have to vote in a different place. So if you are going to vote in the Tyrone Town Council race and in the on the general ballot, you probably have to go to two different places if you vote on election day. If you vote absentee or you vote early, you will be able to vote just in on one ballot in one location. A special note here, we do have to talk about judicial elections. There's a special provision for special elections when there's a judicial vacancy in Georgia. Our state constitution states that if a judicial vacancy is filled by the governor, the next time that seat comes up for election doesn't happen till the next regular election. That's at least a year later. So that when judges get appointed, the terms of when their term starts and when the next election is supposed to happen for that seat changes. And this year, in sort of a high-profile Supreme Court case, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled that if judges resign at any time from their seat, even if they resign saying they're going to resign at some point in the future, the governor gets to appoint someone and reschedule the elections. So right now there is a Supreme Court justice whose term was supposed to end at the end of this year, who did not run for re-election. So there should have been an election to fill that seat. Instead said, I'm going to resign a month early. And therefore the governor then gets to appoint a replacement. And when an appointment, when a replacement is appointed, then the election gets postponed for another, until that next election a year later. So there's some question about whether or not we will ever elect judges in Georgia again, because with this system, theoretically elections could always be postponed if people resign their seats early or say they're going to resign their seats early. This is something big to watch. I know I said 20 minutes. I'm going a little over. but I feel like I'm going fast. Okay, how do we know for us, right? I showed those maps. They weren't that detailed. How do I find my house? How do I know who I'm going to vote for, what district I am, right? We all know about the My Voter page system. If you go to the My Voter page and look yourself up, it will tell you your congressional district. It will tell you your county commission district, your state house district, your state senate district. All of those things you can find out. The one thing that you cannot find out about on that page is whether or not you live in the city limits and you can vote in your municipal election. There is not an easy way that I know of to check that. It is not available on that page. Just a reminder, we know our election dates. If you know anyone who is not registered to vote yet, there is still time to register to vote. Early voting starts soon. So where and how to vote, right? If you can vote absentee, you can vote early. When you vote early, you don't have to vote at your voting location. You can vote at any early voting location in your county. So in Fayette County, we have 3. You can go to any of those when they are open. If you vote on election day, you have to vote in your precinct. It's just the early voting locations again. Go to any of those. So, little plug for the census, right? Everyone who we elect this year is then in charge of drawing all of those lines that we looked at, all of those maps, all of those colors. The people we elect this year get to redraw those lines based on the information that the census provides. Remember, we said that all of those different colored areas have to have the same number of people living in them. You know, we are legally fighting over who we count as people living in them. That's a different question, but how we fill out the census depends on how those lines are able to be drawn, and who draws those lines is who we elect. So your next county commission is going to draw county commission lines. Your next school board is going to draw those school board lines. So just vote, and I've got my email and phone number up there for questions, and I don't know, questions. I feel like I rushed through all that, but I hope it was useful.